So our speaker for today is going to be Taylor Sanford. Taylor is going to take and present to us following Braam. Probably said that wrong, but we're really looking forward to your presentation. Take it away.
Hello, thank you for allowing me to present. Sorry, my screen just went. Following Braam. This is just personal background. Let's see. So the purpose of research, this qualitative case study research seeks to understand how changes on the Braam panel have affected government and policy changes at the Washington State Department of Children, Youth, and Families in monitoring foster care, children, placements, and runaways from foster placements throughout the state of Washington. Due to the dissolution of the Braam panel, the research will focus on understanding oversight programming and analysis for foster care children in the state of Washington and will be defined as a case study. The study is significant because it proposes solutions for oversight of foster care children in Washington, solutions which could assist policymakers, DCYF programming, and encourage the public to consider becoming foster parents. So foster care in Washington is in crisis. There are too many children to place and not enough homes. Children are living in offices, motels, and out of state. News reports all too often mention cases of abuse and runaways in foster homes, and monitoring foster placements is inadequate. Upon doing some initial research, the Braam panel was discovered but was found to have disbanded after 2017. The purpose of this proposal would be to find out why the Braam panel was disbanded and what the Washington Department of Children, Youth, and Families is doing to monitor the safety of foster placements. In 2018, the Washington State Supreme Court ruled the state responsible for the safety of children placed in foster care. According to the Seattle Times, after a 5-4 decision, the court ruled that the State Department of Social and Health Services, quote, owes a duty of reasonable care to protect foster children from the abuse at the hands of their foster parents, unquote. This ruling came from a decision by the Court of Appeals after 5 children sued DSHS for failing to investigate and intervene abuse by their foster parents. By sending the case back to trial, Washington State's responsibility for the safety of foster children was forced to expand. The same year, in 2018, DSHS settled a $19.3 million lawsuit from a woman who was abused so horrifically she ended up blind, brain damaged, and quadriplegic. Her abuser was a man who claimed to be her foster father, whom she was placed with by DSHS in Texas. According to court records, between 1998 and 2000, DSHS placed 5 female children with an Eatonville couple, Scott and Drew and Hamrick. The girls were allegedly physically, sexually, and psychologically abused for 5 years. The social worker assigned to 2 of the children's cases failed to perform health and safety visits in 1999. Health and safety visits were required of social workers. According to the Peninsula Daily News, a Clallam County Forks couple was accused of raping a foster child. The child was kept quiet with gifts and was abused for 5 years. In Iowa, at an out-of-state jail-like group home for foster kids, caregivers have been accused of physically abusing teenagers and keeping them in restraints. According to reports, Washington State social workers were aware of the abuse but failed to ensure the rights and safety of children placed at the home. In 2004, a former foster child sued the State Department of Social and Health Services, claiming she was sexually abused for years in 3 different foster homes. According to documents, DSHS received roughly 25 complaints against the child's foster parents and from the child's therapist, alleging the child was, quote, acting out sexually, unquote. Background information. In 1998, 13 children began a lawsuit against the state of Washington, claiming the inadequate care they received resulted in them being harmed in foster care. The 13 children claimed the Department of Social and Health Services was not providing constitutionally required care to foster children. The named plaintiff was Jessica Braam. The 13 children claimed the state of Washington was harming children in foster care through inadequate care. The plaintiffs settled their own separate claims while their claims for an injunction went on to trial in 2001, Braam versus State of Washington. In 2003, the Supreme Court reversed the trial court, vacated the injunction, and set the case back for a retrial for evidentiary issues. In 2004, the 2 parties settled on an agreement. This settlement became the Braam Settlement Agreement. An oversight was created and included a panel of child welfare experts, a public child welfare administrator, a child welfare researcher, a child's mental health expert, and 2 other unknown members. The panel's responsibilities included watching the state's compliance with the 2004 agreement, developing professional standards, providing advice and technical assistance to the state, and issuing a public monitoring report every 6 months. In 2006, the panel created an implementation plan which set up outcomes, annual benchmarks, and action steps. In 2007, a set of professional standards were added, and in 2008, the panel issued the revised implementation plan. Department of Children, Youth, and Families, no date. In 2008, the Children's Council filed a motion to enforce the 2004 agreement. The state of Washington had failed to comply with the panel's implementation plan. The state of Washington had failed to provide monthly health and safety visits to every foster child, failed to develop a plan to reduce caseworker loads to a reasonable number, failed to ensure siblings receive visits, and failed to provide timely child health and education tracking CHET screens for foster children. A Whatcom County Superior Court judge found the state out of compliance in 2008 for the terms negotiated for the 2004 agreement. The state of Washington was ordered to show dramatic improvements within the next 90 days. The state was also ordered to meet benchmark measurements in all 4 areas in which it had failed within 9 months of the hearing and the Whatcom County Superior Court order. Washington State had failed to be in compliance with the 4 areas they had been ordered to improve for several years after 2008. The panel disbanded on June 30th, 2013. Extraordinarily little progress within the foster care system had been made by the state of Washington. On January 18th, 2008, a Seattle Times article was written addressing Washington State's failure to comply with the 2004 settlement agreement ordering better treatment for foster children. Lawyers wrote, quote, "The state has continued to put children in foster care at risk and has failed to protect them from the very harms that led to the settlement in the first place," unquote. Lawyers for Washington State foster kids made a request to a judge to sanction the state for failing to provide standards of care for abused and neglected children. The Braam management required state foster care workers to make monthly in-person visits with foster children. According to state data, 60% of foster children were not getting monthly visits. The study attempts to understand the oversight of Washington State foster care children and therefore includes 4 central research questions. Research question 1. Describe what happened post-2017 to the Braam panel and its disbandment. Research question 2. Describe the process that Washington Department of Children, Youth, and Families is currently doing to monitor the safety of children placed in foster care in Washington State. Research question 3. Has the state of Washington made improvements towards monthly health and safety visits, developing a plan to reduce caseworker loads, ensuring siblings receive visits, and timely CHET screenings? Research question 4. Describe process in which DCYF monitors foster children in the state of Washington. This qualitative case study research seeks to understand how changes on the Braam panel have affected government and policy changes at the Washington State DCYF in monitoring foster care children, placements, and runaways from foster placements throughout the state of Washington. Due to the dissolution of the Braam panel, the research will focus on understanding oversight programming and analysis for foster care children in the state of Washington and will be defined as a case study. The proposed qualitative research design process involves developing questions using inductive data analysis by building on particulars of general themes, with the researchers making interpretations of the qualitative data's meaning. The purpose of this qualitative case study is to learn and explore the collaboration, education, accountability, and oversight of Washington State foster care children from the disbandment of the Braam Agreement in 2008 to current time. This proposed study aims to develop an oversight model, methods, and accountability for foster care children in Washington State, and specifically focuses on the Washington State Department of Children, Youth, and Families, more commonly referred to as DCYF. DCYF is a government agency. DCYF is the lead agency for state-funded services that support foster care children and families to build resilience and health and to improve educational outcomes. DCYF partners with state and local agencies, tribes, and other organizations in communities across the state of Washington with a specific focus on supporting children and families at their most vulnerable points by giving families foster care children and children the tools to succeed. The proposed data analysis is inductive thematic content analysis, beginning with removing biases, establishing and highlighting the data's central ideas without a predetermined framework, and identifying the common themes and patterns across the data. Thematic content analysis. As Rucker 2016 recommends and quoted below, the proposed thematic content analysis steps include the following. 1, getting familiar with the data, reading and rereading. 2, coding, labeling the whole text. 3, searching for themes with broader patterns of meaning. 4, reviewing themes to make sure they fit the data. 5, defining and naming themes. And 6, the write-up, creating a coherent narrative that includes quotes from the interviewees. And I would like to give a special thanks to Professor Christine Henderson, Dr. Brandy Wiegers, Director for the Office of Undergraduate Research. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Source and the tech team. Thank you.
Well, can we please say thank you to our speaker? Does anyone have any questions? I'm going to go ahead and ask, based on this research, it seems like it's ongoing. If you could make one change tomorrow to the system, what would you do?
I would have a better system of monitoring foster care children and high-risk children that are with their families as well. A system that also would reduce caseworker load, because that seems to be a big problem.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, for my friends that have worked with foster care, the caseworker load is just so overwhelming. So, Well, thank you very much for doing this very important research. Thank you for coming back and presenting. I know that we had technical difficulties before, but I think it was really important to get this recorded. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.